Welcome to the channel, it's MikeOps3D, and in today's video I will be showing you how I printed, processed, and painted Shinobu's katana. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, if you're new to my channel, here are all the materials that I use for post-processing my prints. Here I have my palm sander, this X-Acto knife, this toothbrush, any old used toothbrush to get the dust off from when you sand. And I also have this Bondo glazing spot putty, so to fill in like either holes or gaps or cracks in the prints. And I also have this smaller sander for the more finer details. If any the palm sander or the smaller one doesn't work, I'll just hand sand the prints myself. And I also have this dust mask. So you want to use a dust mask for when you sand your prints, because you don't want to inhale the little dust particles that come out of the prints from sanding them. And also you want to wear some eye protection just so you don't get any of the dust particles in your eyes. I also have various tapes for when I have to paint my prints. Another one right here. And then for when I do have to spray paint my prints, I use a filtrated mask so that way you don't inhale the chemicals from the prints. Also I have these paint pens that you can use for the finer details. And I have this soldering iron that I use to weld my prints together. I do have this kind of like super glue, good enough to kind of hold the prints together, and then when it's held together, then I use my soldering iron. So most of these items I actually bought off of Amazon, but if you don't want to do that, you can also just look at local hardware stores or art stores. For this print, I'm using my Creality Ender 3 Pro, and I'm using regular PLA filament. Okay, once you've got all the parts printed, now it's time to put them together. If you do need to make some minor adjustments to these supports, just go ahead and use the smaller sander to kind of smoothen it out so that way it can fit through the holes. Okay, first thing I'm going to do now is put these pieces together along with this, as well as this part, so the whole blade. I'm going to try to put them together first. Okay, so when it's not secured together just yet, based on just having the supports in the middle, this is what it'll look like. And then now the next step is to weld it together. Okay, now that I've got all of that welded together, I'm going to go over the welded parts and fix those gaps. I'm going to take regular filament and kind of just melt it over and flatten it out as best as I can, and then throughout the entire blade. Once that's done, then the next part is sanding. Try to flatten it out as much as you can without melting the blade, so that way sanding gets a lot easier, but also you don't want to deform the shape of the blade. So careful with the soldering iron, and so that you don't melt the blade so that it gets out of alignment. I'm going to start with the 120 grit, and once I'm done with the 120 grit, I'm going to go over with Bondo on the parts that we welded, so that way it's a lot smoother. Okay, I've put Bondo in all the places I've welded. I'm gonna let that dry for about 10-15 minutes and then sand with the 240 grit. I almost forgot to put this last part right here. It's the same thing. There's a little hole that you can put this part through. Just put it together and then kind of weld it together as well. If this isn't fitting into the hole easily, just go ahead and use the smaller sander to help out with making it smaller so that you can fit that into the hole. Okay, now that the Bondo is dry, I'm gonna go ahead and sand with the 240 grit. Okay, now that I've got everything attached together and I've got the Bondo and I've sanded it down, that's really all there is to the blade. Now everything is just assembling. So I'm gonna do a test fit to see if everything fits together, and then if it does, then I'm gonna go ahead and just go straight to the priming and then the coloring. Okay, there it is. Shinobu's sword, pretty much. Katana. I'm gonna paint them individually because that way it's a lot easier to paint, and so I don't have to do a lot of taping. Okay, for the primer, I'm gonna use this Rust-Oleum filler primer. The color scheme for the Katana, it's orange, green, black, silver, and that's pretty much it. The black is gonna go all throughout this part of the blade, and then the silver is going to be the sharper part of the blade. And then the green is going to be the insides of these 4 leaves, and then it's also going to be what the wrap is supposed to be colored. So these outer parts are going to be green, and then diamonds inside are going to be orange. So these pieces are going to be orange as well. For the black, I'm going to be using this Krylon gloss black. For the green, I'm going to be using this Rust-Oleum gloss metal green. For the silver, I'm using this Rust-Oleum metallic finish chrome look. The orange, what I'm going to paint it gold first, and then I'm going to, with this Rust-Oleum metallic finish gold, and then I'm going to use this chrome red duplicolor metal cast. It's going to be a very light layer that goes over the gold, which will make it look orange, and I think that's going to look so much cooler, and it's going to make the orange look metallic and pop instead of like plastic. Okay, the last thing that needs to be painted are the characters on the sides of the blade. So the paint pen is actually too wide to be able to get in here accurately, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a thin paintbrush and just some white acrylic paint and to fill it in. Okay, once you have all the parts painted, it's pretty simple to put it together. There's not that many pieces. This part right here, I colored it silver because I think that's supposed to be the habaki or the blade collar. The other katanas I've painted, they model the blade collar separately that you can actually attach, but I don't think there was one for this, so I just had to color it that color. Once that's put together, just super glue it, dry it, and then that is Shinobu's Katana. Alright, there it is, the finished product for Shinobu's Katana. Let me know down in the comments below on what you guys think about this project. And if you have any questions, also just leave them down in the comments and I'll try my best to get back to you. Or you can DM me on Instagram. Subscribe to the channel to follow along for more creations. And let me know down in the comments what you guys want to see me make next. You follow me on TikTok or Instagram if you just want to come and hang out. And if you don't want to make these, you can just also check out my Etsy store. I do sell some of my props on Etsy. If you do decide to make this, tag me on Instagram so I can see how it turned out for you. Again, thank you so much for watching the video, and I will see you in the next print.